Hey everybody! Today's 1-minute comic is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 361. Alright, we kick off this issue with Carnage toying with his next victim, preaching about how this isn't a fantasy world where the hero is gonna come save him. Carnage finally ends this poor man's life, simply stating because he can. We check in on Peter, who gets some bad news from one of his friends. Pete suits up and heads over to the crime scene to try and see if he can find any clues, as his friend wasn't the first to be slaughtered. Spidey listens in on the conversation and he can't help but connect the dots. Could Venom really be back? And if he's not, who could it be? A bit later, Pete meets MJ in the park to break her the bad news. Pete gives us a bit of a flashback and MJ insists that Pete let the police handle it. Of course, Pete can't do that and heads over to the Bugle. We end the issue with Pete coming across a few different articles of one Cletus Cassidy. Hey everybody, today's 1-minute comic is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 361 part 2. Spidey's investigation has led him to an abandoned orphanage where Cassidy is talking to a teddy bear. As Spidey gets closer, a blood-like liquid starts to flow around Cassidy. Cassidy turns and tells Spidey that he's the next victim of Carnage. Carnage goes on the offensive with a strike, but Spidey dodges and webs Carnage in the face. That doesn't faze him as Cassidy uses his symbiote to grab Spidey. Spidey proceeds to get absolutely ragdolled before being tossed aside. Spidey has to buy time, so he tries to get Carnage talking. It works enough that Spidey can fastball special a beam at Carnage. Carnage catches it and snaps it like a toothpick. Carnage finally decides to get serious and forms his infamous axe. Carnage shoots the axe at Spidey, missing him. After a sneak attack and some more ragdolling, Carnage is finally ready to put Spidey down, but two cops stumble upon the fight. Carnage, now distracted, is tossed off Spidey. Spidey checks on the officers, but suddenly Carnage hurls an object, narrowly missing them. Carnage has made his escape, but he left one last present. Written in blood, Carnage rules. Spidey decides there's only one thing left to do. It's time to bring Venom home. Hey everybody, today's 1-minute comic is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 362 part 1. Alright, we open up with Spidey and Torch making their way out to an island paradise. Unfortunately for them, this isn't a vacation, but instead it's to recruit. Recruit who, you ask? Well, he's slimy, black and white, has a minor god complex, and has such a deep-seated hatred for Spidey it's caused him to make stupid mistakes which cost him the win. That's right, it's our boy Venom! Spidey and Torch come across a relaxing Brock, who, upon seeing Spidey, can't believe his eyes. Spidey confirms he's not an illusion, and Venom immediately attacks Spidey. A shot from the sonic cannon and a bit of fire won't stop Venom as he shakes it off like nothing. Torch uses his Nova Flame, but all it does is create enough of an opening for Spidey to flee. Spidey comes across the abandoned mining village, but is jumped by a pursuing Venom. Venom is about to land the finishing blow until Torch scrambles the symbiote using the Fantastic card. Great name, by the way. Spidey takes the moment to frantically explain what's happening at home, checking out Carnage, who's been a very busy boy. He's been hacking and slashing his way to the top, causing pure chaos in the process. We end the issue right before things get out of hand. Hey everybody, today's 1-minute comic is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 362 part 2. Alright, we pick up with Carnage making short work of his victim by taking the escape helicopter and just tossing it off the roof. Still on the island, Spidey has filled Venom in, and the two have come to an agreement. Venom will help, but after he gets to go free. They waste no time and make it to NYC as Venom uses his symbiote to locate Carnage. The duo arrive at Cassidy's location and it is on. Spidey and Venom rush Carnage, but he brushes them off with ease. The neighbor decides to get involved, and as a reward, Carnage steals her baby and tosses it out the freaking window. Man, dick move, Cassidy. Venom and Spidey make the save, and Carnage manages to get away, but not before leaving a clue. Spidey holds up the paper, and it clearly shows where Carnage is off to next. The issue ends with Carnage lining up his next victim, Jonah Jameson. Hey everybody, today's 1-minute comic is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 363 part 1. Alright, we'll open the issue with Carnage tossing Jameson around like he's an old toy, but fear not, Spidey and Venom are hot on Carnage's trail. As they're swinging over, Spidey comments on how weird it is to be working with a guy who was trying to kill him for so long. By the time the pair arrive, Carnage and Jameson are gone. Spidey gets the location and the duo go to leave, but they're stopped by the detective. Spidey makes a passionate speech about how Venom is his responsibility. Venom approves this message, by the way, and they take off. The pair hears a scream and land on the sidewalk below, only to find a grotesque scene left by Carnage. Bystanders claim Carnage landed, picked the woman, and slammed her through a wall. Oh. Spidey and Venom find another clue and make their way to MSG, where a metal concert is actually taking place. Carnage arrives a bit beforehand and starts to preach to the crowd about killing and disorder and, blah 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 blah. Just as the crowd begins to reach a frenzy, Spidey and Venom arrive. We leave off with the duo squaring up against Carnage. Today's 1-minute comic is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 363 part 2. Alright, we pick up with Venom getting put through the floor face first by Carnage. Spidey intervenes and kicks Carnage through the same hole, but he doesn't seem to mind as he lands in front of a fresh batch of victims. Venom recoups and attempts to give chase, but he's stopped by a cop. Venom is about to go right through him until Spidey sends the cop up to tend to the wounded. The duo manages to trap Carnage in the subway where the fight carries on, but Carnage is doing a pretty good job of handling both opponents. Spidey finally manages to kick Carnage away, but he lands on the third rail and is lit up like a Christmas tree. But Carnage still gets up. Carnage makes the getaway and leaps to the surface. Spidey follows, but it's a trap. Carnage grabs him from behind, but Venom makes the save. Spidey sets Jonah free and heads up to the sound system. Spidey turns up the sound and scrambles Carnage into absolutely nothing. Venom, severely hurt, gathers himself enough to turn his attention to Spidey. Venom grabs him and slams him into the stage, but at the last possible second, Reed and the Fantastic Four show up and blast Venom. The issue ends with Brock and Cassidy being hauled away.